I'm Jessica and today I'm going to be talking about reinventing agriculture with genetically modified organisms, aka GMOs. So at the end of this presentation, you will be able to recognize some of the potential dangers of using GMOs that people often reference, some solutions that have been used to minimize risk when using GMOs, and some benefits of using GMOs in agriculture. So, the Environmental Working Group estimates that the average American eats around 193 pounds of genetically modified organisms per year. Who here has ever eaten corn, soy, potatoes, canola, oil, sugar, or diet soda, or has eaten anything with those in it? So yeah, GMOs, you will likely eat a GMO, unless you have eaten foods that have like strict organic labeling, or they have been labeled as non-GMO. And a fun fact about diet drink, you might be wondering how that is a GMO. It's not a GMO, because diet drink is not an organism, but the aspartame in diet soda, which is a common artificial sweetener in your diet drinks, is produced by a genetically modified E. coli, and what their excrement is then treated with methanol, and that creates aspartame. So that's how that happens. So I'm going to go over some common problems with GMOs and some solutions that have been used to minimize some risk with them. So when you often hear about GMOs, you hear that it will reduce the biodiversity, and this can leave the plants vulnerable to widespread disease, because if they're all the same genetically, then if one gets the disease, they'll all get the disease, and that would wipe out a whole area or a whole crop in general. But some potential solutions for that would be to avoid monoculture in general, which would mean diversifying your crop selection anyway, but also the use of a seed bank. Does anybody know what seed banks are? So, yeah, seed banks are where they have a variety of seeds for all kinds of plants, and every so often they replant those seeds so that they can get newer seeds every so often. But the one flaw with this is that the way they have them stored in a refrigeration system, it actually acts as a selection pressure. So over time, your diversity in the seed bank actually goes down a little bit, but I think if we worked on the conditions in the seed bank, that could be reduced as well. You also hear with GMOs that they've increased pesticide use, and that's often in reference to Roundup Ready corn. But it has increased the use of the herbicide glyphosate, which is one of the least harsh pesticides, and it's also 25% less toxic than caffeine. But a potential solution would be to genetically engineer the plants to contain the deterrent in them, like Bt corn, which the Bt stands for Bacillus thuringiensis, and this does not need the insecticides because the bacteria in it gets rid of the pests by itself without added insecticides. And you will also hear about the spread of genes, like the genes from the GMOs will spread to all these other crops, and even though we don't want that to happen, well, this would particularly be a fear for edible vaccines, because you wouldn't want to be eating a banana and then find out that your banana was actually a vaccine banana, and you've been eating a lot of it. So some solutions for that have been bag pollination, where they collect the pollen in a bag and then they pollinate it through that, rather than having the pollen free float through the air, which then could spread if it got far enough out to other plantations. But also another solution would be separate greenhouses for the GMOs and for your traditional plants. So some benefits of GMOs are larger crop yields, longer shelf life, which is great for transportation. They can be grown in harsh environments, which is helpful for areas that cannot usually grow plants. Then they have the potential for plants to be engineered that can be grown there. And the ability to create edible vaccines, which are also great because they're easier to transport than traditional vaccines, because traditional vaccines must be kept frozen to remain active, and these do not. So you wouldn't have to have all the refrigeration and the transportation. And a success story of GMOs was, at one point, the papaya industry in Hawaii suffered because the green spot virus hit and it wiped out almost all the papayas. But then the plant pathologist Dennis Gonzalez created a virus-resistant rainbow papaya, and it reduced the local virus levels so much that it allowed the other papayas to come back up. So that is the story of how GMOs saved an organic crop. So now let's go over the worksheet. How many pounds of genetically modified food does the average American eat per year?
193 pounds.
Good job. What's a potential drawback of relying on a seed bank to maintain biodiversity? Yes, Garrett.
Diversity goes down in the
Yes.
storage.
And what does the BT and BT cotton stand for? Somebody else. Yes.
Bacillus thuringiensis.
Yep. And how much less toxic is glyphosate than caffeine?
25%.
Yep. And what virus almost wiped out the Hawaiian papaya?
Ring spot.
Yes. So, in conclusion, GMOs affect all of us, and they have many benefits for both the agriculture and the environment when used appropriately. So, with proper techniques, we can really minimize the risk. So, I hope you all learned something new about GMOs today, and thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thanks.